Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I believe that we are now live. I believe that we are now live. Ya ahlan wa sahlan.
Ya hella. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We hope, inshallah, that there's no technical difficulties this time.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, subhanAllah, sometimes it freezes over, but I'll do my best, inshallah. How's your day going, ya Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, it's good. Just resting up. Had class on the weekend, so trying to recover from that. Do you do that? Do you need to recover after you teach a class?
Recover? No, I wouldn't use that word. But I do like to maybe change the vibe a little bit. I don't know if it's like a recovery thing. I do like to do something a little bit different, yeah. Usually if I'm teaching as well online, it's usually at around this time, which is it's not late for us, 10 p.m. in Perth. Or it'll be really early, 5 a.m. in Perth, which is like better for Europe and North America. So my day's actually either coming to an end or just about to begin. So either way, it's something where I'm going to be getting some rest or I'm going to be doing something totally different.
Yeah, I think that's important. You don't want to be like doing lectures in the middle of the night and stuff. You probably actually have to do that, right? Like 1 a.m., 2 a.m.'s kind of thing.
In Ramadan, yes, I actually enjoy some of that because it's a totally different vibe, subhanAllah. You're not kind of stressed about waking the kids up and things like that. My boy isn't going to run across right now and say, Baba, I love you, I'm going to bed, that kind of thing where you get those kind of interactions. So it's a little bit de-stressing. But I think what it is as well, Sheikh, is that because I'm a high school teacher, so like I'll go from a year 7 class to a year 12 class, and it'll go from like period 1 to period 2. So I think I've like gotten into that vibe of then meeting a parent and then, so I go from one place to another. It's a little bit maybe customary for me.
I find that when I'm teaching a class, I'm like, I give it, and then I'll go knocked out. Or I try to, decompress by not sleeping after that, playing on the phone or whatnot for a long time, and then I knock out. Something like that. But I'm getting better, alhamdulillah. Lack of water. So we have people tuning in. We've got Faziha. Say again?
How's our audience today? Where are people coming in from? Did you ask?
We got Faziha in Trinidad, Paras in Pakistan. Paras won. I had the big championship, and Paras won top prize. Welcome, Paras.
MashaAllah.
Nasima, wa alaikum assalam from Dreamwalker. Fartoon, wa alaikum assalam. Hazim's tuning in from Gaza. Wa alaikum assalam, Hazim. Rija says that she needs 9.5 hours of recuperation. K. Rahman in Canada, alaikum assalam. Faraz in the UK, alaikum assalam. Naila. Aisha Ma'al Abrar is in Minnesota. Zahra's in the Philippines. Okay, so can you see the comments or no?
I can't because I got you not on the recent side, but yeah, on I'm trying not to fiddle around with my other devices. I don't want it to mess around with me. You know what I mean?
Don't mess around with it. So Sister Zahra in the Philippines, she is a chef. She can do all kind of stuff, but her main thing is pastry. So then I said, inshallah, we're going to come to your house and you're going to make food for us, inshallah.
Look, subhanAllah, I would love to visit the Philippines sooner rather than later. And inshallah, Allah allows us to travel again. There's a dear brother. Now, he's actually not my blood brother, but his name is Ibrahim and he's Egyptian. So it's like everyone always assumed that Sheikh Wa'il Ibrahim is like Yahya Ibrahim's like family somehow. So we're family in Iman, but he's always done like a lot of wonderful outreach work in the Philippines. He's, mashallah, got a great community there. And subhanAllah, almost every year that I've been invited to that wonderful conference that they've held,
In
him
the
and Mufti
Philippines?
Ming, yeah, in the Philippines, I haven't been able to attend. And subhanAllah, it was really my intent to come 2020, and it was in my mind that I was going to say to him, I'm going to cancel anything else and I'll be with you. And qadarallahu ma sha'a fa'al, I don't think it's, obviously this year is a write-off in that sense. But I hope Allah opens the pathways again, that I really do want to visit the Philippines. Such an awesome people, mashallah.
So we have in the comments, brother Dr. Altaf Hussein. Are you familiar with Altaf Hussein?
I know the brother from work, but I don't know the brother personally.
Okay. Sheikh Altaf Hussein, Dr. Altaf. He just turned 50. So he had a big 5-0 party recently. MashaAllah, tabarakallah.
Alhamdulillah.
Who else we got? We got Fartune's in Nairobi, Saleh's in Chicago, Shema's tuning in from Montreal. We got Farhan in Singapore, Nuran's in Bangladesh, Mahanam Mazleen Abdullah. Mazleen. And
that's our KL people right there, mashallah.
Say again?
That's our KL people right there, Kuala Lumpur.
KL. So what's up? You been busy this week?
Subhanallah, Sheikh, it's the final week of our school term here in Perth, and it's been a challenging term. So the 10 weeks have gone by really, really quickly. Year 12s are really a big thing for us because, this is entrance exams for university. They're tertiary grades, and I do teach year 12 as a subject, and it's just you want to make sure that your students are going to have a bright future and not be debilitated by some of the things that have happened in online learning that was at the part of the beginning of the term and so on. So as an administrator, it is something that it is a little bit stressful, mashallah. Our principal has met with every single family of the year 12 students, just trying to support them. And on Thursday, I'm cooking for them.
Okay, how?
That's like, come on, man.
What I mean is you're going to cook for them and then eat the food yourself, or you're going to cook for them and send it to their houses?
No. At the school, man. We're all back at school. It's also, it's first row. So, yeah, I'm cooking for them at the school, inshallah, for the staff and them, all of the year 12 teachers. We're not inviting parents. Please don't come if you're watching. There isn't enough. So I'm going to make some Egyptian stuff, some, this and that. Alhamdulillah. So it's my tradition, like each and every graduating year 12 year, that I kind of make some baklawa for them, make some macarona bil bechamel, some rice and buttered chicken, and I don't know what's on the menu. Inshallah, we'll definitely macarona bil bechamel. Inshallah. So that's coming. I'll send you some photos, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. We always have to talk about food at some.
Well, look, I'm on the Muhammad al-Sharif Sunnah, man. I got lemon water here. I'm wondering, where's yours, bro? Did you forget it today?
You know what? When you said that, you're like, oh, I'm going to make some lemon water. I'm like, I don't have lemons today. And then I'm like, I need to get some more lemons, inshallah. I'm going to write that down, because if I go out after this, I need to get some lemons. I was thinking of chamomile tea as well. So instead of just tea that keeps you awake, I heard chamomile puts you to sleep.
Well, what I did with this, it's just raw lemon, a little bit of raw lemon, skinned most of it, but I left one with a little bit of skin and just a drop of honey with some hot water, and it's enjoyable, mashallah.
Is it hot water or cold water?
So it was hot water, and now it's tepid. Alhamdulillah. So what's the latest, chef? What you saying?
The latest is we were doing Dreamwalker, and Dreamwalker is like the science of
The
taking
name.
action. Huh?
Tell me about that name, Dreamwalker.
So I find that, a lot of people have dreams, but they sit around and they wait for it. So Dreamwalker
Yeah.
is, why do you have to? You're not a tree. You can get up and move. If the food is not being delivered, you can get up and go get it from the store. So it's almost like an ode to the people who. Say again?
Do you remember that 80s? You remember that 80s disc? Act like a tree and leave.
I got it from a quote, which is like, if you don't like your job, move. If you don't like your relationship, move. If you don't like this, move. You're not a tree. You can move.
Yeah.
Everybody complaining, but you can get up and move.
Yeah, no, it's such an awesome name, mashallah. I think a name like that kind of means different things to different people.
What does it mean to you? What do you think of?
Well, when I first read it or I first hear it from you, it's like that your dream is always in motion, like it's evolving, and you got to walk with it. So I don't know. I guess that kind of makes sense in the way that you're carrying it through.
Again, like my intention was, like when we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a lot of people really think that, hey, it's just going to show up for me or it's going to be a miracle. But the things that we're making dua for are big things. And the statement that I say is like Nuh alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to build a boat and get all these animals. That is not some small feat. And so if you're looking for the answer to your dua, maybe you need to be building a boat. And so how do you build a boat? How do you deliver a boat? How do you get all the animals? There's work to be done. Respect the struggle.
And build it where it doesn't seem like it's going to work. Like build it at a place and at a time when everyone around you is like, what the hell's this guy doing? You're in the desert. It hasn't rained for years. What do you need a boat for?
Preparation.
And it's also, the boat isn't built by him alone, but it's taught to him to build. So there's this gaining of knowledge each and every step of the way.
Yes.
Mm.
And not only that, but emotionally, سَخِرُوا مِنْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلَّمَا مَرَّ عَلَيْهِ مَلَوْ مِنْ قَوْمِهِ سَخِرُوا مِنْ. So he's building it and he's also being ridiculed for it.
SubhanAllah.
So it's like, that test and the ridicule.
And not just from like neighbors and stuff, but his own family, like his own son and wife. I always found it was really interesting that it wasn't just like a family member, but it was like double. And it's like someone outside and someone inside. Like his wife, okay, she came into his relationship, but now it's like his son, like it's a part of him. Like an old generation and the new generation, in both cases, it was difficult for them to, like, it's such a powerful, subhanAllah, powerful test to deal with.
We were talking in class about Najashi, and even though he had a lot of wealth and power, the Prophet ﷺ called him Ar-Rajul Salih. And it was a lesson that I was telling people, that even though you have money, a lot of people think, oh, if you have money, then you must not be righteous. But here's a Najashi, and the Prophet ﷺ called him Ar-Rajul Salih. And then some of the sisters were like, how do you say Ar-Rajul Salih in the female? And then I said, you know what? Why don't you look up the Queen of Sheba? Because she had wealth too. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about her, She made the statement. I remember the tafsir. She made the statement, "إن الملوك إذا دخلوا قرية أفسدوها وجعلوا عزة أهلها أذلة." And at the end of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ يَفْعَلُونَ. Like Allah
Subhanallah.
confirmed what she said. And
You
Allah is
know, one of
Rabbul
my
Alamin.
favorite words, Sheikh, one of my favorite words in the Quran is كذلك. Like it's always used, like Isa alayhi salam, his mom, she says, how can it be? And the angel just says, قال كذلك. Zakaria says, you know, how can I have a child? It is what it is. It's going to be as Allah has said. This is what's going to happen. And subhanAllah, it's almost as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that there's these things in life that are a sunnah of al-kawn. It's, you know, there's certain things that are just such regularities in our behaviors, and the same characters will show up irrespective of culture, ethnicity, locality, and era in time. كذلك.
كذلك. Did you grow up in that kind of a situation where if you had wealth and you were successful, people looked down on you?
No.
No.
No. Didn't grow up privileged in that sense. But yeah, I didn't have that privilege. But I could tell you there were other things that people, all of us, we've had that. And it doesn't matter about how much wealth, but there's always that certain privilege that a person has that other people don't have. I think one of the things that, you know, one of our brothers, he sent me this voice message, and I was going to actually take your advice on that. I was going to send you the poster. I've been asked to do a thing about prominent Muslims of African descent throughout time, and we wanted to go away from using the word black, since that it's very much contentious at the moment. And of course, there's just so many incredible people throughout history who incidentally are of various skin tones, skin colors, ethnicities, and so on. And one of our brothers, Akhuna Ammar al-Shukri, he sent me this voice message because I sent him the poster and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And he goes, you know, there was a white brother who sent me a voice message and said to me, I'm sorry, I know I have privilege, and I just wanted you to know that, you know, there's just so much hate being shared and so on, that it's not something what can I do about it? Like, it is what it is. I was born rich, or I was born with a particular skin tone, or I was born into a family that are of ulama who taught me the Quran young, and whatever it may be, there's always going to be something, نفضل بعضكم على بعض, that there's different levels of benefit that each of us may have with each other. So yeah, there is something that each of us at some point in time will have to be humbled by and find a sense of humility in.
Yeah.
And if I said yes to that question, Chef, where would that have taken us?
If you said yes, no, I was just thinking about just like life in Canada, being in neighborhoods that. So when somebody is, hey, did you? Okay, you're still there. I thought you broke down. When I find that when somebody has problems, they get a lot of love, and when they're successful, they lose that love. Right? So how this looks is if somebody goes on Facebook and starts a pity party, hey, I got this, I got that, and everybody's like, hugs and caring and so on and so forth. So there's this real big benefit when you have problems, people surround you. But when you're doing really great, Then you've got the hasad over here and somebody criticizing over there and whatnot. And then after a while, a person's like, you know what? Maybe it's just better that I live my life with problems instead of like facing the onslaught. I think the Australians have this the what is it? The tallest poppy gets cut down or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's a British statement as well.
Ah,
Like if you're the one that sticks out, you're the one that everybody guns for. So that I can understand that as an euphemism as well, obviously.
I think
Um,
the Australians the what is it?
Sorry.
The tallest poppy. I'm just trying to. Yeah, go ahead. You're saying?
yeah, so I think I can't remember the exact euphemism, but I understand which one it is. That if you do stand out, if you're an outlier, people do kind of tend to gravitate and give you a little bit more attention and love or lack of love than others.
Hmm.
You can almost see that also in the life story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You could certainly see that in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, where you find that, some of the jealousy that emanated towards him was not of his own doing, of course. It was just, inna abana, our father loves him. Our father gives him more attention and has shown more regard to him. And love is, of course, one of those most contested things, I think, that all of us in one way or another are grappling with, how much to give and how much to withhold. I think that's probably what makes Surah Yusuf Ahsan al-Qasas, the one that has just so much of a narrative and so much of a pull and so many lessons towards it, because its basis, I think, if in one word, it was about love. The good love, the bad love, the ugly love.
I remember a brother that in one of my classes, this is a long time ago, and he felt so bad about doing like, kind of like raising his lot in life. He said because at the masjid that he goes to in the community, people look down at him if it's called tall poppy syndrome, one of the comments said, if he
Tall
stands up.
poppy.
And so I said to him, I'm like, okay, what kind of car do you have? And he's like, I wanted to know, like, is it worth like, you got put down? And he's like, he's got a Lexus. And I'm like, you're embarrassed about a Lexus? I'm like, what kind of community is this? I'm like, maybe if you showed up in a Lamborghini, I could understand. But a Lexus? It was an old one. And he was laughing. And I guess it's just the people that you surround yourself with. They're either, bigging you up and encouraging you, or they are pulling you down to their level to make themselves feel. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons Allah sends Nabiya sallallahu alayhi wasallam in his human quality, and Allah refers to him as sahib, وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونَ. That word sahib, I like to translate it as your fellow man. Like, it's not just your companion, but he's like one of you. He's like one of the boys. He's like Abu Bakr is, he's the guy from the hood that everybody knew. And he was somebody you can just, وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونَ. He hasn't gone mad. He's the same guy you've always known. وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ. He did see what he saw, and it was just such an unbelievable thing. But if you look at it, what Allah's saying to them is, he's the same guy. There's nothing changed about him that's so significant. He's a Sadiq al-Amin. He's the guy that cared for the weak. He's the guy that carried, food on his back to deliver to those who came for Hajj. He's the one who waters for people. He was the shepherd and the merchant. And وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونَ. He's nothing changed about him, other than, he's touched by an angel, mashallah.
So some people in the comments are saying, Rizwan is saying, absolutely rightly said, when I was poor, all were my friends, alhamdulillah. But then I have comforts of life, people disconnected with me. I don't know why this happened. That's on one side. But then you got Saliha, welcome Saliha, says pity party equals empathy. And then she says, no, Sheikh, doing good is strength. Our people look up to strong, successful people. The hasad and nazar is there in others.
It reminds me of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Shaykh, where he said, Ahabbul khalqi ilallah, of the most beloved of Allah's creation, al-ghani, al-taqi, al-khafi. The one who is self-sufficient, who doesn't have to rely upon other people for everything they need, who is taqi, who is inwardly righteous, who's outwardly practicing, who does the things to protect themselves from Allah's punishment, and who's khafi, who doesn't do it to be boastful and excessive and showy and so on. And it's such a powerful statement of the Prophet ﷺ that that's the one Allah loves the most. Habbal khalq, the most beloved to Allah. Allahumma ja'alna minhum ya Rabbi.
Rija has this comment. She says, I think people box you into what they consider should be done with certain privilege, and if you don't fall into their expectation, it's looked down upon. That comment, what I find is people have rules in their mind, and then they get angry or happy based on whether you fulfilled their rules. And everybody, there's no one ledger of rules that we all have to follow. And I find when people get angry, I'll be like, look, I don't know your rules and I don't have to follow your rules. The only rules that we actually care about are the rules of Allah and His Messenger.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Have you ever had somebody try to impose their rules on how you ate your food? Like how much sauce you put, or do you know what I mean? It used to actually bother me. I remember there was one time, you know how we eat mulukhiyah, right? As Egyptian. And somebody said, no, you're putting too much. And I was like, dude, I want to put a little bit more on my rice. Why are you the mulukhiyah Nazi police or something? Just step back, step away from the mulukhiyah. Let me add as much as I want. What's it to you?
But
it's you're the one eating it.
That whether you can have green tea before the food or after, or a dessert before certain culture. Yes. I went to one desi place.
It's arbitrary.
And I got a faluda. I don't normally get faluda, but I got a faluda. And then the waiter told me, he goes, faluda doesn't come before the food. And I was like, I do what I want.
I'm going to have it. Well, guess what?
And he's like, okay. He felt really bad for me. And I heard in Japanese culture, if you order, I think, either green tea or something with the food or before food, something like that, they won't serve it to you. And and they do it because you're they don't want you to embarrass yourself. Something like that. I forget what it was.
In Seinfeld, what is it? The soup Nazi, sorry. Have you seen that episode in Seinfeld where no soup for you?
No,
get out of the line.
I'm not a Seinfeld.
I'm not but I remember it was this awesome character, man. The guy who withholds soup if you're not going to eat it the way he wants you to eat it. Yeah, so arbitrary rules are. Do you see it in practice religiously as well, Sheikh? Are these
100%.
These arbitrary rules that aren't shara from Allah, and it's Allah who says shara Allahu lakum min ad-dini ma wassa bihi. This is what Allah sent, and then there's other things where it's been determined for you.
Especially in our training in Islamic education, usul al-fiqh is the science of how do you know that Allah said this. So my mind is always processing when somebody says something. I am designating their words into certain dalil shar'i. Is this, okay, this is your opinion, great. Now what does Allah say? And then they're like, didn't you hear what I said? I'm like, yeah, I did. But what does Allah say? Because I don't care what you said. And then they don't know. So what they do is they start trying to make an analogy, or they get angry. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Talk to the hand. Even my mind starts thinking, does this person have proof? I start searching for proof for them because they obviously don't know, to extract the proof.
It's actually it was one of the things that I struggled with as well growing up, because you have these arbitrary kind of things that were told to you. And I think one of the things that can breed levels of hostility and alienation within our communities from each other is that we have these cultural practices of what is expected and what isn't expected. And somebody who doesn't know, they just don't know. And if you impose it upon them as if it is, Quran, يعني احنا في مصر we have this saying, هو Quran, يعني, somebody tells you, we say, what are you doing? What is it, Quran? Like, is it written in the Quran what you're telling me to do? That's the natural thought that we have. And I've seen a lot of young people kind of struggle with those kind of expectations that people have that sometimes are unnecessary and such a burden in life.
And when I see like so somebody says something really weird, like, oh, some guy tells, I think this is even in Egypt, like, oh, this girl, she became practicing, and he's like, you can't leave your house until you're dead. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's obviously so stupid, and surely nobody believes that. But then I'm like, wait a second, they actually do believe this.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, so we studied Islam and we know, okay, that person is not representing Islam, but for that young brother or sister that hears these kind of things, they are being like misguided in another, on a, like in a different way. So,
It's definitely a form of extremism when it goes into the sense of our deen. It's a form of ghulu. And subhanallah, the blessing of our deen and having so much scope to be expansive and allow people to fit into the different channels on the same highway towards Allah is one of the greatest mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us. And it is so unfortunate that when a person has a little bit of ignorance, they can have a little bit of knowledge that can have a greater impact than somebody who has no knowledge at all, because you think you know, but you don't. There was this moment I remember when I was like young. I had this one brother say to me, "You're making sujood like a camel." And the Prophet said, "Don't do sujood like a camel." And that's all he said to me. And I just came to the masjid. I was like 14 years old, and I was praying, and this guy's watching me from a distance, and he goes, "Why are you praying like a camel?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "What the hell does that mean?" And he goes, "The Prophet said, don't pray like a camel, and you're praying like a camel." And I just didn't understand it. And what he meant was like you're going down with your knees before your hands, or your hands before your knees, and and it just confused the heck out of me. And I remember in my salah, I was like, nobody told me not to pray like a camel. And I remember going home and asking my dad, "Baba, هو الجمل بيصلي? Do camels pray?" Because that's how I understood it. Do camels pray? I was like 13 years old. And why can't we pray like a camel? SubhanAllah, camels pray? And why would the Prophet say don't pray like a camel? That's all I understood from it. And yeah, so that kind of stuff is just, yeah, the application or the misapplication is just as bad.
Here's an interesting comment from Brother Rizwan. I'll put it up here. And Rizwan is saying, how do you feel happy by yourself every time? Any tips? And I like the connection to what we're talking about here, which is like, what does Allah and His Messenger say? Because when I look it up, being sad is actually not something that Islam is guiding you towards, right? So when you see verses like "La tahzan," don't be sad. ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى. It's for you to grieve. Yes, sometimes we feel those emotions, no problem. But so if I'm feeling sad, I start telling myself, does Allah want me to be sad? And the answer is no. So where am I getting this sadness from? I made it up. I'm making up my own rules. I'm telling myself I have to be sad. I have to be sad.
No, and Allah says the shaitan لِيَحْزُنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. One of the aims of the shaitan is
to make them sad. So it actually goes back to Usul al-Fiqh. You can use your deen to be happy. I posted this one thing about, if you're sad, shaitan rejoices, and then people, didn't understand it. It's actually a quote by Ibn al-Qayyim. And then they said, oh, is it our fault that we're sad? I'm like, no, I'm not saying it's your fault, but if you understand Islam, being sad is not Islamic guidance, if you will. Like, it's not righteousness.
So what are the tips that you can offer, Chef? How can we combat that?
How to be happy.
Not just how to be happy, but see, I think there's a difference between how to be happy and how not to be sad. I think people conflate the two things as being one and the same. But I think there's definitely a difference. Like you can at times not be happy, but at the same time, I don't have to be sad. It doesn't have to be it's this way or this way. It's not, one or nothing or neither of them.
And one thing that I heard that I liked was, okay, happiness might be up and down. There are times when we're happy, with times when we're angry, whatever. But you want like this internal joy, which is like it's on the inside, kind of like that feeling when you're reading Quran and you feel at peace, right? It's not that you're super happy, but you're not sad. You're like at peace, sakina, salam,
Is it sometimes that people might have forgot what actual happiness is, and they confuse happiness with the numbing or intoxication of entertainment? Because we live in a time where entertainment is like a narcotic. It's like something where people are taught that this is what feels good, and you're so immersed in something sensory or something that, oh, this is what it means to be happy, rather than other levels of happiness, maybe.
I noticed that when there's if we're traveling and we go to a scenic place and whatnot, I always ask myself, well, and observe, what do people do at these locations? And the main thing is like, okay, they'll take a picture, they take a video, they stand and they take the picture. But then after they take the picture, they leave, they get back on the bus. And I'm like, sometimes I'm watching their eyes, they're not even looking at, like there's no other way to consume what they just experienced other than, hey, take a picture, get back on the bus, go to the next station. And I'm like, stop, put the phone down, look out. I take pictures too, but I try to make time I took my picture, and I'm sure there's a billion pictures online of this amazing location, but I want to be present. I want to experience this right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what I would say to our dear brother, I would say, I don't want to say that understand, but feel that there is different layers of happiness and different depth of happiness. And most people, sadly, because they assume happiness is success is metric, like you can measure it. How successful are you academically? Well, this is where I studied, this is where my degree, this is my GPA, these are my marks. How successful are you financially? This is what's in my account, this is my home and my car. But none of that is actually tangible in its metric scale as being same as a metric happiness scale. So people want to measure happiness, but it's not something that you can pull out and tape and say, I am 9.5% happy. And I almost got to 10% happy and I'm going to be 20% happy tomorrow. Happiness is a variety of, different emotions and things. And so the first tip, I think, is to rebrand and reframe what we assume happiness means. Number two is to kind of detach the sense of happiness from being a quality of entertainment. So if I'm doing something entertaining, then this is what I assume to be happiness. SubhanAllah, just sitting in quiet at times, rahatul bal. There's this famous, I can't remember who's the sha'ir. He said, النفس تجزع أن تكون فقيرة والفقر خير من غنى يطغيها. That a soul is so discontent to be in a state of poverty, but perhaps poverty is better than excessive wealth that will cause transgressions against others. وغنى النفوس هو الكفاء. To be given enrichment in your soul is to recognize when things are sufficient, that I have enough and I don't really need more. فَإِنْ أَبَتْ, if your soul doesn't learn that, فَجَمِيعُ مَا لِلدُّنْيَا لَا يَكْفِيهَا, then the wealth of the world will never suffice you. You'll never find that happiness that you're seeking. هِيَ الْقَنَاعَةُ فَالْزَمْهَا تَكُنْ مَلِكًا. If you develop a sense of acceptance, you will live like a king. لو لم تكن إلا راحة البال والبدن. Even if all it is that your kingdom is that you have a good sleep and a content mind and heart. And subhanAllah, that's so true.
You know what this reminds me of? That translations suck. Actually, you know what? This reminds me of that translation. Yes, the choicest, your choicest, like totally ruins the whole thing. I'm enjoying
the poetry. Muhammad trolled me online. I said the salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ, and I said, "Oh Allah, send your choicest blessings upon the Lord." He goes, "Can we agree never to use the word choicest again?"
You know it's messed, like the choicest.
It's true. It's just, yeah.
It's like, I remember being in the West and English khutbahs and translations and all of this stuff. And then I went for Hajj at one point, and I'm like, oh my God, thank you. An Arabic khutbah with no translation. Alhamdulillah. Like it just feels much better, relaxed, at peace. Something you just don't want to translate it.
I do the thing with my students at our school. It's called Quran for Teens. And so we were studying Surah Al-Takwir. And just, I'm trying to, just the first word, إِذَا, when Allah is saying إِذَا, it's not He's saying, if it will happen, which is what إِذَا means. It's like when it will happen, like when Allah uses it. And just trying to explain that subtlety in a language other than the language of the Quran, and to give examples so that they can awaken, to the majesty of the word. It's honestly, subhanAllah, Shaykh, it is such a phenomenal, scripture that we've been given, the Quran and the balagha and the eloquence of it. Either shamsu, just those two words. You haven't even begun the whole surah, and you haven't even gotten to kuwirat, and just that there's this if statement that Allah is saying, when this happens, this is going to happen, and when this occurs, this is going to occur. That kind of it is something that I feel, subhanallah, such a loss for us, even as people who speak Arabic or have studied a little bit of Arabic, that it's not even a drop of the ocean of what we can receive from the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
This Sister Rija is saying that we're overstimulated all the time, so when it's slower, you feel like you're sad. But that's just a natural, normal state. What's interesting, in one of the books we read in our book hero book club, the author was saying that when you actually are doing something productive, you don't get stimulated as quickly as like a game on your phone. So
Mm,
your mind is translating actual productivity as if you're not being productive, but you are. You're just not like fruit ninja being productive. You're actually getting something done, and your mind starts translating this as we're wasting time. We need to get back on the phone. We need to slice some fruit. That kind of stuff. Yeah.
absolutely, I agree with the sister. Jazakallah khair. That's a really good mudakhala, or injection into that. And there is so much stimulation out there that we assume that when we're not there, we are not doing anything at all. But just sitting there and thinking is actually action. Like my son, he was saying to me, "Baba, I'm bored." I go, that that you're bored is actually a good thing. I go, think about that. So he sat there and goes, what does that mean? I said, think about it for a little bit. Think about what's good about being bored. And he goes, Baba, I don't want to be bored. I said, but think about it, and then maybe you won't be bored. Think about why. What are some of the things you can do when you're bored? And it's important for us to just do nothing sometimes.
To be bored.
SubhanAllah. Well, psychologists, they say boredom is actually the seed of imagination in children, and it's one of the reasons many of our children, especially younger children who grew up with mobiles in their hands and things like that, find it much more difficult to be imaginative, to be storytellers, to be abstract in their thoughts. There was this thing that I read or saw, where they gave, a young child just a piece of paper with a red dot in the middle, and they said, what is this? And that young child came up with like 25 different names. It's like the nose of it's a nose of a clown. It's a, this or that. Am I breaking up, Sheikh?
Can't hear you, bro. It's breaking up, bro. Shuhaik. Oh, he's gone. Let's see if I can get him back. Shutta wa Kammoon. How y'all doing? Any final questions you guys want to discuss? There we go.
There we go. MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, so I was saying, they gave this young child a red dot, and he came up with like 25 different uses for it, or 25 things that you can, that they imagine. And they gave it to an adult, and they come up with like 5 or 10. Oh, it's a car, it's a ball, or, whatever kind of thing. So I think our minds, certainly they need a little bit of a decluttering, and just moving away from that whole
morning Vietnam. Remember, I used to start off with the Good Morning Vietnam. It was, the lockdown period when it first started. It felt like, that apocalypse time, and in all these movies of apocalypse, there's always some guy who has a radio station who is sharing with everybody, conspiracy theories and what's really going on, stuff like that. So that was my feeling. I think I've grown out of that. That's why it's not as exciting to say the Good Morning Vietnam anymore.
I thought it would actually merge into something. I thought you would actually go with like another slogan, like it'll morph from there to like something else. Good morning, COVID-19.
COVID-19.
So, Sheikh, we're having this huge controversy in Australia. I don't know if you've read about it. I'll send you some links anyway. So the Muslims are getting really bashed in the media. And
who's getting bashed?
Basically what happened is you got some people who said that the reason that there's a spike in cases of COVID-19 in Melbourne, in Victoria, is because Muslims are not practicing social distancing as much as they should. And they brought as evidence, people that they obviously kind of hand-picked in the street. There was this one young brother who they interviewed, and he just looked really ugly in his response, just really hateful in the way he kind of projected himself. And he said things, he goes, yeah, I kiss and I hug everybody I meet. And he had this really thick kind of inner city accent. And that reporter says, well, what about your grandmother? Aren't you afraid that you can spread? Well, F this, if she, what are you going to do? I'm not going to put my life on the hold because of coronavirus.
This is a
And,
Muslim
of
guy?
course, social media exploded with that and so on. And it was, paint that was brushed against the whole community in Victoria. What are your thoughts on the misrepresentation, I guess, that we deal with? Should we, do you disown those kind of statements? The brother was actually, from what we learned later on in other news reports, that he lost his job, and all these different ramifications came about it, and he was highly ostracized. When there's these unfair portrayals and things like that, what do you think is a good reaction? Because I know it's one of the things that the UK Muslims are kind of dealing with. In the Daily Telegraph had an article yesterday that said half of all coronavirus cases that are now practiced have come in from Pakistan. And of course, if you were to go back 3 months ago, there were no reported cases in Pakistan. It was probably British Muslims of Pakistani origin who brought it to Pakistan, and now they're returning back, and you kind of get that. So what are your thoughts on that kind of engagement?
So recently, we were reading the book "How to Be Anti-Racist" by Kendi, and an interesting point that he said, like when it comes to like white privilege. So when a white person says something, we never say this is all white people. We never say that. But if it's somebody who's black or somebody that's Muslim, as soon as something happens, every Muslim, 1.2 billion people have to respond, or all the black people have to respond, and that's like it's straight up racism. And I think that the conversation, we should not be. And people used to do this before, like when you get asked about, oh, you're Muslim, what do you think about that? You know what? And I used to see Muslims respond to it like, hey, why are you even asking me? That's racist. And I didn't fully understand that back then, but I'm feeling it now. If I get asked like, oh, there's a Muslim guy, and then somebody comes and says like, oh, I'm like, that's just straight up racist. We never say that to white people ever. They're always individuals. Some guy goes and shoots up a post office in the US. We never say that's white people. But if a Muslim guy did it, we will always have to be on the defense. It's just, oh, every Muslim in the world, this is who they are. So it's kind of riled me in these days.
Yeah. Look, it just shows how how fragile societies are, subhanallah, how people can feel so alienated in lands that they lived their whole lives, born, raised, grew up. I think it's one of the difficult things that is going to require a lot of love for each other and a lot of compassion to kind of bridge those gaps. Any final word, Chef?
What's that?
Any final words, final thoughts? Let's end up on a high, man. Forget this whole COVID-19 thing, man. Pretend you're in Perth and the sun is shining.
In the Perth and the sun is shining. What's something nice? So, how about this? Inshallah, when you get to travel again, where do you want to go? Okay, don't say Mecca, Medina. Okay, we got that. But after that,
you're gonna be with me though. We've
Where?
always been, oh, we're going to go together. Are you going to be with me on this next trip? Where are we going to go? We said we were
I
going
don't
to
know,
do stuff, man.
We said we're not talking about COVID. I'd like to visit like Vietnam actually. The location of where all this COVID stuff, all my Good Morning
Have you
Vietnam.
done New Zealand yet?
Say again?
Have you done New Zealand?
I missed the first part.
New Zealand. Have you been to New Zealand?
Oh, New Zealand? No, but I don't know. It's not that exciting, you know.
It's awesome, man. I
Yeah,
love New Zealand.
but I need culture. I need like Vietnamese culture. I need
All right.
Filipino culture.
I,
Go to people's
I
houses.
can do
Go to
that.
Sheikh Abdul Bari's house in Vietnam.
Ooh, that would be special, man.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
All right, cool. Jazakallah khairan.
So let's set that, Sheikh. Let's do it.
Inshallah. Chalo.
The niyyah is set, inshallah. It's an easy flight for me, inshallah. So I'm down, bro.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah. It was an awesome pleasure always being with you, Sheikh Mohammed. We're gonna do this what? Friday, Saturday, Sunday? When do you think?
We're gonna do it when we do it. كذلك.
All right. Sheikh Mohammed will say كذلك. It's gonna be on that day, inshallah.
Inshallah.
All right, yeah. Have a good night or have a good day. And
Everybody, salam alaikum. If anybody wants to say final salams, there's probably like a 20-second delay. Are we gonna wait for the salams or?
I'm off, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Okay, bye. Bye. Walaikum assalam to everybody.